can God create a stone so heavy that he himself cannot lift it, And I think that paradox like a question if God is all powerful, right? So yeah, how would you answer to this paradox objection, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this goes back to the again, understanding the notion of what something means, which, as you can tell, which what I said in the beginning, a lot of these objections stem from a misunderstanding or not even knowing some basic Christian doctrine or philosophical implications of the nature of God. So, can God create a rock so big he cannot lift? Well, in short, the answer is no. But why not? Well, because of the nature of God. What do we mean by that? Well, first, essentially, the question, first of all, it's not an argument, right? It's at best a challenge. It's a question. But the question, can God create a rock so big he can't lift, is essentially a question aimed to implicitly attack the doctrine of omnipotence, which means that God is all powerful. But to answer that, we first have to understand and grasp, what does it mean for a being to be omnipotent? What does omnipotence mean? Well, in a nutshell, philosophically speaking, omnipotence is simply that God can do all things that are logically possible within his nature. Now, that's a mouthful. What does that mean? To illustrate, sometimes when I teach, about the nature of God in an apologetics class or something at churches, I like to kind of throw this out there to get people thinking in the right way. And I like to ask, the audience, can God do anything? And most people say yes, God can do anything. And then I ask, is there something you can do that God cannot? And most people say no, there's nothing I can do that God cannot. Okay. And then I say, all right, I have two more questions. Can God sin and can God learn? And then people either get quiet or shake their head no or don't know what to say. And of course, the answer is no, God cannot sin and God cannot learn. But wait a minute, we can sin and learn. So there are things we can do that God can't. Now, is this a conundrum? No. All that requires is a proper definition of God's nature and what it means for something to be omnipotent. So, in a nutshell, let's look at these two. Why can God not sin? Well, because God is by definition morally perfect. And a being that is morally perfect does not have the ability to do something imperfect. I would argue, in other words, if a being has the ability to do something imperfect or does something imperfect, it would follow that this being was never morally perfect to begin with. No, God cannot sin because he's morally perfect, and sin is not something a morally perfect being would do. So it is a logical contradiction for a morally perfect being to do something immoral. Now, note that this is not a reflection on God's imperfection. It's a reflection of God's perfection. It is because God is whole and perfect that he cannot sin, because sin is a bad thing. It's a moral failure, and a moral perfect being cannot morally fail. What about learning? Why can God not learn? Well, because he's omniscient. And the definition of omniscience, simply put, is that God knows everything that's true. So if God knows everything, there's nothing left for him to learn. But now then, why can we as human beings, how is it that we can sin and learn? Well, because we can sin because we're not morally perfect, and we can learn because we're not omniscient. So note, no, God cannot sin or learn. And a few things. One, it's not a limitation on God's omnipotence, because again, omnipotence, I like the way I once heard my friend Tim Barnett put it. Omnipotence is basically having the ability to do anything that power can do. So it's not about strength. It's not as if, in other words, going to the question about can God create a rock so big you can't lift, it's not that God had to lift more weights in order to lift this rock, right? It's not in terms of strength in that sense. It's in terms of logical compatibility. So God cannot sin because he's morally perfect, and it's not something he lacks. It's because he lacks nothing. In the same way, creating a rock so big he cannot lift is just a contradiction of terms when it comes to omnipotence. If God is all powerful, then he can do anything that power can do. And to ask him to create a rock so big he can't lift is not a logical possibility that quote unquote power can do. It's not a thing that can be done. Again, it's just a contradiction in terms. It's like asking, can God create a married bachelor? Well, no, because by definition, a bachelor is not married, so God cannot create a married bachelor. It's a logical contradiction, and omnipotence does not entail the ability to do logically contradictory things. Now, another way to answer this I've heard is that if the person says no, there has to be a yes or no. And I've already said, well, the answer is no because it's a logical contradiction. But if the person wants to allow for logical contradictions, well, then you could say, well, then yes, God can create a rock so big you can't lift, and no, he can't at the same time. Well, that's a logical contradiction. Right. And so is your question, and that's why it's a bad question.